Hi, folks. So welcome back to Academy on Call, where we go on call with mentors and alumni of Insignia Ventures Academies, various programs for professionals to get into the startup and venture ecosystem here in Southeast Asia. I'm your host, Paolo Aquino, and we are back with another mentor episode. And for the first time, we're having this call with a mentor before their session. We have none other than Chen Chow with us here on call. Another special thing about this call, I think, is that Chen Chow is actually quite literally on call with us, like holding smoke as we're talking. So really, literally taking our theme, our podcast theme, to heart. So yeah, thank you, Chen Chow, for coming on call with us, and it's great to have you join us for the show. Where are you dialing from?
Hi, Paolo, and hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for having me. Honored to be here in Academy on Call for Insignia Ventures Academy. So I'm Helene from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm currently at Royal Lake Club. So this is a 135 years old location in Kuala Lumpur, a historic place here. So if you look at it, surrounding is a bit old, but it's a nice ambience here. And maybe I'll just do a quick intro of myself. I'm Chen Chow, I'm the CC. So founder of 1% Advisory and Coaching. So I do bite-sized management advisory, executive coaching, and speaking. I'm also a venture partner for Insignia Ventures Partners. So helping a bit, supporting in terms of looking at especially in Malaysian market. Prior to this, I co-founded Fave Group. So it's a startup that we built across, and over the years, we exited to Pileups, a fintech unicorn from India. And prior to that, I was regional operations director for Groupon Asia Pacific, product manager for jobstreet.com, and mission consultant for Accenture.
Yeah, no, I think I was gonna make the intro for you, but thanks for doing it as well. What I will say though is that thanks to you being a venture partner in Insignia Ventures Partners, that's how we got to meet. We were on a trip in Hanoi, and we were able to spend a little bit of time outside of our kind of like work schedule, and I was really able to get to know Chen Chow, our CC over here, and all the different stories that he shared, and hopefully we're able to go through some of these stories on this call, and hopefully our audience will be able to leave with some really great tidbits. And if you guys are interested in reaching out to him after hearing what he has to say, I'll leave his LinkedIn in the podcast description below, and you can reach out to him and DM him. But yeah, so for this conversation, I wanted to really just go through kind of like your whole journey as an entrepreneur and start from the very beginning. There's this common saying that entrepreneurs are not born but made. And so I was wondering whether there's a particular childhood memory or experience that you would say, looking back, has really shaped you as an entrepreneur and leader today.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, right? I think that in terms of entrepreneur, right? I'm not an early bloomer. So I'm actually a very late bloomer. So if you ask me, I think I came from a small town in Penang State, Midland, right? So it's not even Penang, it's much smaller than that, Yeoh. So if you ask me back then and say, would I be an entrepreneur or businessman? I would never have thought about it. My parents were civil servants, so never thought they would go that, right? And it's a small town boy. So I think the entrepreneur, when in university, when I went to Cornell, I had a bit of exposure to entrepreneur, but even at that point, the thinking and thought of like saying that one day I'm going to be an entrepreneur was not that. It's interesting to hear from this, but it was way beyond me. I think some of you listeners may resonate. Some of you may be exposed to this early on, but there are some people who may not be as exposed, just like me. Don't feel bad, because everyone always gone through some beginning. Even though you're like me, you haven't gone through this, it's not never too late. And the fact that you are listening to this, and many of you that are going to join Insignia Ventures Academy, like you will likely be able to pick a bunch of skill sets, right? And experience to build through. And I think that entrepreneurs, one thing is that most entrepreneurs are very open to share. What entrepreneurs lack a lot of time is time. They are very busy people. Often they got so many things. But if you get them on the right frame of mind, where they have time, where they're chill, they're actually very open to share. Because I think entrepreneurs all have hustle story. If you look outside, it looks great, amazing. You look outside, every entrepreneur is like, oh wow, this guy can chill here and relax. But the thing as an entrepreneur is that your brain never gets to strike. Everything, the bugs that you, right? There are things that you still need to go through. And nothing is too small for you, right? Let's say in a way in a corporate, okay, now I got a more junior people to take care. As an entrepreneur, if it doesn't get solved, it's your problem, right? It is, you go in and do it. So I think as an entrepreneur, you sort of need to have that mindset that anything and everything is yours. And anything that no one know how to do, no one want to do, no one love to do, is you. I still thinking back then when we first set up our office, no one will clean the toilet. I'm the one to go in and clean the toilet, right? If you think of anything that no one want to do, you go in and showcase, right? Changing light bulbs to very mundane stuff, right? But I think those are the things that build through. That I think as an entrepreneur, those are, and if you look at many of the founders out there, right? They are very hands-on founder, right? So let's say Karen from Carol, he's a super hands-on, go down there. Anthony Tan from Grab, he's out there talking to people, being a Grab delivery rider and deliver food on bicycle or bike or car, right? So I think a lot of founders are all in that kind of mode, right? Or even take Insignia, Ying Lan. I will also put it as an entrepreneur while he leads Insignia, right? If you think on it, he built this thing from scratch. He go out there and built that. And it's basically hands-on. It's like every day, every night, I'm quite sure Paulo get hundreds of messages from it and different hours and whatever, but you think, but the mind of this entrepreneur in that play is that, right? And of course, all of us may have, like, let's say for Ying Lan, is entrepreneur in the VC industry. What is entrepreneur? So, and then all of us have an entrepreneur, and many of us, even if we are not doing a startup, we are entrepreneur at our home, entrepreneur in our friends group, entrepreneur in something, right? And then if you think on it, is that, right? It's a place where we feel we belong. It's a place that we own it and we are responsible for it to make it happen. So that's how I look at it as entrepreneur. Yeah.
Thanks for really sharing that and really framing entrepreneurship as really more of a mindset than anything else that really can be applied in a variety of different kind of situations or even industries. I'm curious to know, like you mentioned earlier that, you know, it wasn't really, I guess, in the cards for you to actually start your own business. At what point did it suddenly become front and center as an idea and to start a company?
Yeah, actually, this whole thing came about 2015. So 2011, 2015, I was at Groupon. So I started in Malaysia, eventually promoted to take care of operations for sub-region and then Asia Pacific regions. So in early 2015, I got 2 job offers, right? So one in the telco, one in the ride-hailing industry. And basically, I told Joel, he leads Asia Pacific for Groupon. And my boss tell him, hey, maybe I should quit and join one of these companies. And then he called me back a couple hours later and say, hey, why don't we start a company together? So that was how it is, right? So I was actually not intending to start a company, but I mean, I've been working with Joel for 4 years as of that time. And he was like, oh, let's go do it, right? And let's make it happen. So that was how I came into it. And I think that as an entrepreneur, there's no perfect mode. If you look at every entrepreneur, it's very different, right? Let's take C Group, C Limited, right? The one normal, for those that would know gaming, Garena, for those that know e-commerce, Shopee. Forrest is a very introvert person, very quiet person. He's a very successful entrepreneur, right? And then if you look at it, just mentioned Aaron Carroll, he's a much more extroverted entrepreneur. And I think there's no right mode. Some are very analytical, some are very visionary, some are very operational, right? So, if you look at each of that, the play, it doesn't mean that this mode will be a great entrepreneur. I think a lot of it is be yourself and going in. So I think for me, as I go in and there, I am not the most visionary or innovative person. Joe is. And I think for me, it's complementing that. So let's say, example, as we go out there, if we have, let's say, we have fundraising, Joe will go out there and charm investors. And fun fact, back then, when in our seed round, Ying Lan, when he was not yet in Insignia, she basically was there that gave us a seed round investment at a time, right? And pre-Insignia days for Ying Lan. And I think that for Joe is the one that go out there and say, charm them and say, oh, they say, yes, I do. Let me give you money. And where I came in is basically from that verbal I do until the money sit in the bank, right? And everything in between, right? The same thing when we acquired company, we acquired Groupon subsidiaries, or even when we sold to Pine Labs. the other Joel, he will be the one that charm them, and until they say, okay, let me do this deal at this price. What I do from there is take that verbal commitment until the company is bought or sold and integration is done. So that's where I play. So, and that's where I play as an entrepreneur. Doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, right? But different entrepreneur will then play at a different strength. I think as you're considering building it, ask yourself, what's a superpower? What's an ikigai? What are you really good at? What do you really enjoy doing? What you can really contribute, right? I think if you think on it in the end, all of us have weaknesses. Don't worry about it. Find people to complement that. But what we want is all of us operate at a superpower strength. I said Paulo is an amazing storyteller. He knows things. As I remember in Hana, we were walking around talking, and I was just randomly talking about things, right? And Paulo was able to connect the dots and connect through and think through and put everything into a storyline. I can. And all of us will have that gap and whatnot, but what is our superpower? And this mindset came about when I was at Job Street. We can who leads the product team back then. I was in product team. I'm very bad at design. My design doesn't work, right? And because being in that time, I'm still a top rep, when we can, my boss asked me and say, hey, doing design. And he actually told me earlier on and say, hey, you're not good at design, don't worry, we'll find someone. But being an employee mindset at that time, I was like, no, I'm going to learn, I'm going to do it. Right? And I spent a lot of hours trying to make myself better. But I just bad at it, right? And horrible at it. And after a while, when we can ask me 2-3 times, I was like, actually, so my boss was like, oh, if you really can't do it, let me find someone else to handle this. Then you focus on time on doing other parts of it. So even though design is a key component of product manager role, we can have the vision that saying that we will find another person to cover that gap, but you focus on doing what you're great at. And I think that's where, as a raw entrepreneur, you need to be a clear identify and be able to leverage and drive through.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. Like, and something even retail, not just entrepreneurs, but also even investors, right? Like when they ask like, oh, how can I deliver value to my portfolio or the founders that I help, and we also tell them to think about what's your superpower, or what's your what can you draw from your past experience or the expertise or skills that you've built over time to deliver value, right? And I think that cuts across a lot of careers and a lot of vocations. I am curious to dig a little bit deeper into your superpowers, and you specifically talk about kind of really going through the nitty gritty of ensuring that the acquisitions of subsidiaries of Groupon in Malaysia were done and completed, and then later on when you sold to Pine Labs, that deal went through. What are some of the lessons that you've taken from handling not one, but several of these, even within the life of Fave?
Yeah. So I think at Fave, we did 9 acquisitions, big or small. 3 of them were the Groupon subsidiary, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. A couple of table orderings platforms. When we were doing KFit, we acquired a few people kind of thing, 1, 2, 3 people, but a few micro acquisition. Or maybe even some of them may not be fully, I won't call it fully acquisition. We basically hire an entrepreneur who then came in and joined us, become entrepreneur in resident, intrapreneur, and build it up from there, right? Because they had 1, 2 people building up and there's a group. So a lot of it is thinking of it that one in mind. So let's say example, I think that when we bought Groupon Singapore. So I still remember as we acquired it, I set a goal of 60 days. We want to move fully into our own platform. And we decide that as we go on that deal, okay, out of Groupon decision, we will not want to buy the Groupon branding, but they trademarks and all this kind of thing. We also don't want to buy the technology. We want to build own technology, everything. So that because ours in within the system, and because they're in multi countries, for us we will never have flexibility. So we said, okay, we'll try to bullet those tools, and then let's go on it. So I still remember we set a 60-day deadline. Do I know exactly how to do 60 days? Actually, I don't know. But we say, okay, 60 days. And everyone that says need to be done in 60 days. First convince ourselves, then convince our team, and then that's all. And then build a plan to it. I think everything with an end in mind, then leverage everyone to then think, this is the constraint, this is the limit. Let's say a lot of times when we do things, there'll be limited resources. There's almost no infinite resources. But with limited resources, a lot of time it enables us to think creatively, think outside the box, and do different things, right? Let's say, and sometimes even when I was advising, because I do angel invest a bunch of startups as well, advising founders, right? There was one founder recently that I was talking to. They have been doing on their platform for a few months, but they just keep on fixing bugs in their platform. And after a few months, they just like the bugs get more and more and more. So I still remember I was just throwing a thought and say, okay, now assuming that you have spent the, let's say, half year on building the platform, maybe slightly longer for this as a founder. What if today you have now built the 2.0 version of this company? Assume that you have not written a line of code in this company. If now you have an empty whiteboard with your 6 month, 1 year experience on this, how will you design it? How you build this? Versus trying to fix that. Because a lot of time we put plaster, right? We stick it, where we add another plaster, we take it, change that.
Bandage kind of solutions.
Bandage everything. Yeah, but sometimes you zoom out, you might actually solve the problem much better, right? Especially if you already spent a few months trying to fix it and it go nowhere, it get worse a lot of times. You may as well think of it. So sometimes I think it's the pulling a plug. And I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of time is how do you be able to see the forest? How do you be able to sometimes see the trees? At some point you see the leaves, sometimes you see the roots, and sometimes you see the surroundings, right? And how do you connect that dots? I think that's very crucial. At what point you need to be able to see what picture? At what point you can talk to different people, right? If you talk to government, they're like, we're not going to answer you on leaves. You're going to talk about the forest. But when you talk to the person that clearing the weeds, you need to talk about the leaves level or the weeds level, right? And not at a big picture. So I think a lot is contextualize. How do you zoom out, zoom in? And in today's world, multitasking and everything, how do you be able to relate, connect? And I think in the end is, how do you make everyone understand and see it? How do you turn it into super easy understanding of what you need people to understand? And I think that is a superpower there, right? That you not sort of need to put. And I think that the data is crucial. I always believe that without data, it's just an opinion. So that's one of the theme that we built at Fave, where getting around the thing of it without data is just an opinion. So how do you make all the decisions based on data? And at the same time, not over-analyzing. So what kind of hypothesis you have to set? How do you spot trend, spot gap, and be able to zoom in and solve that, right? I think those are crucial pieces, but doesn't mean that's the only piece that you need to look at or do. But I think those are some of the areas that you think through.
And you leverage all these kind of like this kind of toolbox, so to speak, or when thinking about what specific companies to acquire and how to prioritize post acquisition integration and all of these things. Speaking of which, like any particular learnings from post acquisition, because I think there's a lot of talk sometimes about how do you exactly like integrate an acquired company into kind of like the core business and all that.
Yeah, so I think a few parts. I think first part is people and culture.
Any particular learnings from post acquisition, because I think there's a lot of talk sometimes about how do you exactly like integrate an acquired company into kind of like the core business and all that.
Yeah, so I think a few parts. I think first part is people and culture. Do people from both the old and new believe that they are part of this new thing? So I would say from the day one, the first few days especially, in the end, it's not about doing more things. It's about making everyone feel that this is the new home. This is the reset. What is going to be the same? What is going to change? How is going to change? How do you assure the right people? So that when we did the acquisition as well, so far when we did all the Groupon acquisition, by day 2 or day 3, we actually tell people whether you are part of the team or not part of the team. Actually, I think pretty much all of them is by day 2, maybe one of them by day 3. But so that there's no ambiguity. People know I'm secure here. Now let's not worry about anything else. Let's fix forward. Or I need to be not here and let's plan out a way and make sure that. And I think a lot of time when you do tough decisions is do unto others what you wish others do unto you. And in those tough decisions, divide into 2 parts. The what decision of what to do, it needs to be answered by logical. And then how you do need to be answered through empathy, right? So let's say what decision to take. Maybe because of certain acquisition, we might need to do right sizing or downsizing or layoff. But how you do that? Imagine that you are the one going to be let go. How you wish to be let go. Right? How are you going to communicate? And people will see through that. Are you genuine, not genuine? Are you doing it for the sake of certain thing or whatnot, right? And I think in the end is that people understand, people can see through, right? So I think it's being in that consistent mode and how do you go through. So I think the people part is number one. Once you do people part, then I think you look at it and say, what's a must have? What's a bottleneck? The Gantt chart coming in, right? Before something else need to happen.
Right.
What are the 2, 3, 4 critical points that you need to make sure that those are in place so that the rest, let's say example, the system to onboard the client or customers into the play need to be ready so they can start onboarding, or else it can't happen, right? No matter how you plan it, it can't do it. So certain things need to be much more prioritized. Certain things can be slightly later. So you need to plan through. And let's say example, you now migrate, back then we migrate like 10,000 merchants and all those kind of things, right? Who do you migrate first? What do we do? So a lot of times they're using data to plan out and say who you need to do it. So, but my guidance is first set small segment. That's on a small segment. But first small segment is maybe middle level customer, not the highest value customer, but not your lowest value. That's a small segment on that. That's it through. If it works, works towards the main customer. It's 80-20. Your top 20% customer value is 80% value. So when we do the migration, we just study two things. Number of customer migrated to the new platform. But the more important one that you track is percentage of revenue, or GMV, gross merchant values, that has been migrated. So that will become our controlling point, right? Because at some point I need to, on the day of migration, I need to kill the old platform and force through. And the goal for us a lot is how do you move 60, 70, 80% before that day? Of course, you can get 90%, 100%, that's great. But a lot of it never be, right? Because people need to do the action, download a new app and everything. Maybe sometimes you move 25% customers by then this 25% customer is actually 65%, 70% of it. And how do you convince people? Let's say back then we know that you've been buying massage, you have been doing what area. So when we convince you to migrate, we need to put a messaging and offer that I exactly speaking to you. If I know that you love this buffets, to convince you to go over, let me put you a buffet offer that you have a high chance that you're going to say, okay, I've been buying buffet now. If I don't do this, I might lose in future buffet. I'm going to go there, right? So it's not random. Which customer to target and how to target as well, because there's cost to target, right? What do you do? Do you email them? Do you message them? Do you call them? What kind of thing to do? How much it costs? And even you do above the line. How do you think outside the box? So this was early 2017 when we do the migration of Groupon Singapore to Fave. The tagline was Groupon is now Fave. And what we did back then was that we realized that Singapore, everyone used MRT, pretty much everyone, right? And everyone was advertising on the train, on the stations. So we decided that let's find where don't have advertisement, but everyone can see. So at that time, Singapore, the train announcement, the place that shows the timer, that the train is reaching in 2 minutes. It's still an analog. It's the ticker of the word. They the stock market word that the move over. The train is reaching in 2 minutes, or approaching or whatever, right? So what we did was we actually that part has no advertisement at that. So we actually managed to strike out a very good offer with them because they got no pricing for that part. The train is approaching in 2 minutes. Groupon is now Fave. So we basically had the word Groupon is now Fave into all train station, all train arrival in the whole island.
Right.
And because they have no price tag for that space, because no one has rented. And of course, now they are doing a digital screen, where now you can put a proper advertisement. So now it's not cheap, that one already anymore, right? Because they now have the actual ads where it's a graphic. Because those days, when we do it, still wordings only. So we just add the wording, no announcement, because announcements too expensive, because they already do announcement things. So we were just like that. Pretty much everyone knows, because 90+% Singaporean take trains. And they will look at it when the train approaching. After approaching, it's like Groupon is now Fave, right? And that was how we did the soft way. And the cost of that announcement is cheaper than the cost of one train. The country has so many trains. Of course, the train looks bright, colorful, beautiful, right? If it looks very beautiful. But There's only one trade. How many people will go in a trade? Because they got so many trades. Not everyone will see it. This is analog wording that is boring, but it hits the point. Everyone sees it. Of course, you need to understand what's the objective on that, right? You want to build a branding, maybe it's slightly different and whatnot, but a lot of it is that. And then back then when we do for Malaysia, we wanted to compare, and because Malaysia, we have been home ground, so we know a lot of founders. So we actually created a competition among all the startups in the country and said that we'll give you a promo code, the Lorry Fave,
Right.
Hassan Fave, or whatever, right? Each of them has a promo code that have this, and we actually coordinated. On the day of our migration, we have about 30 plus 40 startups all blast to their database to say our friends at Fave have just got over group, and to download it, go on this. And what we do is we run a competition to declare which startup has the best way to convert customers. And the winner will we will email the 2-3 million database that we from Groupon that they are the best in this country for conversion. So the winner will give them dedicated email. The next 4 or something, we give them a shared email. So imagine that you are someone that customer of 5, 10, 20 platforms. Suddenly on that day, you get 4 emails, 5 emails, 10 emails that all tell you Groupon is now Fave. Right? That's basically hit it to there, right? And then, hey, how come I suddenly got spammed by all these people that all say that? And I think a lot of it is thinking beyond outside the box to do it. And of course, need to be fair to everyone as well. So basically, those platforms that did it well, they get recognized because they can then say, hey, we are the best conversion of people in this country.
Right.
And they get their words reach out to even more people, right? And the cost for them is just one email, one message out to their base. But when you use correctly, it's very powerful.
What that whole experience really reminds me of is that even as you acquire these subsidiaries or these companies, when thinking about kind of announcing this integration or this migration, you really thought of it as sort of almost like a go-to-market strategy or something like starting from square one and really, not taking for granted what you already have, but really, thinking outside of the box, as you mentioned, and leveraging that as well. I also like what you mentioned about kind of like the golden rule of, don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done to you, because that sort of fits into your own story of, having done all these acquisitions and then eventually being acquired as well. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, the other side of the M&A, kind of story, right? Of how it's like to be acquired and what you learned from that experience.
So I think the acquisitions, I would say our acquisition is more coincidental because it was during COVID period, right? So during COVID period, our business were disrupted quite a bit, right? Because our customers use us to go dine in restaurants, massage, facial, visit tourist attractions, holidays, some servicing, car servicing or whatever.
Right.
A lot of this business were disrupted during COVID, where we suddenly can't go. So our business were affected quite a bit. And I think at that time we had a decision point. Do we double down or do we sell off, right? And I think that's where that decision, and I think through some connect and whatnot, Prime Labs became the one that acquired us, right? So I would say that do we sell at the prime? No, we didn't sell at our prime. But if I were today to go back to that point again, would I make that same decision? I would say the answer is yes. Right? Because a lot of time, hindsight is 2020. Of course, I didn't go in and say, oh, this will be, right? But at that time, we don't know how long COVID will last.
Right.
We don't know what will rebound, what will not. And a lot of times we will never have a perfect of everything. So judging on across the world. So I think that was sort of where it is. And I think a lot of it is understanding, great win-win-win synergy, whether partnership, acquisition, everything, and grow out that. So let's say you went from startup founders, when you go out of fundraising, people use fundraising because more of you will relate to it than acquisition. Right? But let's say you take fundraising. A lot of founders will say, I want at a very great high valuations, right? From investors, from VCs, everything. But the way I will always ask a founder to think about is, think of you, your family, or your best friend want to invest in your company. How much should they give you for them to own 1% that you think is fair for you and fair for them. Right? Not thinking from a VC standpoint, because the one you feel not so connected, right? At that point, right? So now think of it, your best friend. Today, your best friend going to own 1% of your startup. Should your best friend pay you 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million? If they pay you 1,000, that means you are valuing for 1%, that means you're valuing a company at 100,000. If your friend pay you 10,000, then you're valuing at a million. If your friend is going to pay you 100,000, you're valuing a startup at 10 million. Right? If you're paying you a million, then you're valuing a startup at 100 million. There's no right or wrong because every scenario is different. But you want to go out there and say that, hey, it is fair both ways. Your friend think it's worthwhile, and you think your effort have built so far is worthwhile. And yes, we have multiple metrics, there are multiple benchmark, everything. But in the end, it's supply demand. And in the end, does it make sense for each of you? And a good test whether for that or even partnership is, would you do the deal again? 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road, look back, will you do that? Will you take the money from this investor? Do you think the investor value add to you?
Right.
Do you think that you're going to bring the return for the investor? A lot of times as a founder, we think of what I'm going to get from others. But you flip the other way. Am I contributing back as well? And I think there's a lot of time in there, right? A lot of time we were as a founder or a human being, a lot of time we're like, let me get benefit from others. But how often we ask ourselves and say, well, how much are we contributing and giving back? How are we making a difference in others?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about really thinking in terms of foresight. Like we always like to think in terms of like hindsight, 2020, all of that. But I think having that ability to also see whether you can deliver or, really contribute or give value down the line is something that's important as well. I also wanted to talk about entrepreneurial resilience and give this kind of thought experiment. Like if you were to create a resilience index or some kind of measure for entrepreneurial resilience, what would be the top 3 kind of metrics if you were to pick? Obviously there could be more, but maybe what would have the biggest weight in your mind?
Yeah, very good question, right? I think the first time someone asked me this question, resilience metrics, right? Index, right? I think that it's a very relevant and very hot truth. And you think on it as startup. The startup failed when the founder gives up. Right? I just recorded one of my sessions just now, actually minutes earlier before this video recording.
Oh my God.
I was just telling that founder that saying that I know it's tough. I know you are going through a lot of hardship. But the day the startup will fail is the day that you say, I'm done with this. I'm not going to continue. Right? So that's if you think under the resilience index in the end is I would say maybe you can go back to why you do something, right? A founder. And many of you as a founder, if you want quick money, startup is not the thing. If you want fame, I think there are many better ways. You want work-life balance, I think this maybe is very far off. Like JobStreet founder Mark Chang, back in 1997 when he started JobStreet, he thought that he would start a company and he had a lot of free time to drink coffee at any hour. He got it at December 2014 when he sold the company for $590 million US. And at that time, after almost 20 years, people say overnight success. Right? He only got freedom almost 20 years down the road. Right? Okay, here, there, but it's a long hardship. So I think in the end, it's why you do it. What's the purpose of you doing it? Right? What are the problems that you care deeply that you want to solve? So as an entrepreneur, don't fall in love with problems and their solutions. Fall in love with problems, right? Why you want to solve environment problem? Why you want to solve this transportation problem? Why you want to solve this SME problem? Why you want to solve the unbanked problem? Why you want to solve what problem? And why? Why it relates to you. It's not that AI is cool, that's why you want to do it. It's not because ESG is the talking point and you want to do it, right? I think in the end, it's that why that resonate to you. So if you ask me the resilience index, number 1 is that why in each person. Because that's the one that's going to keep you going, keep you pull through, right? I think that why I will put it by far. If I have 100 score points to put, I will actually put 70, 80 on this first one. Is that right?
Right.
Because I think that it's there, right? The why you do it. You have all the options. And I think many of you that are here, even while you choosing to join Senior Ventures Academy or even tuning in for this an hour or so, you got much better things to do in your life. Why do you tune into this, right?
That's
Because you have certain reason, right? And that's the thing that you choose in, right? Instead of you dialing in, listening to Paulo and me thinking about this, right? But for some people that you choose to dial in, this became relevant. And even after you choose to dial in on this, let's take an example, right? Many of you, after listening to it, you don't do anything. It's just like entertainment value. Oh, I hear it. Okay, I'm done, right? Or whatever, put it back. Some of you, the resilient one, the innovative one, the resourceful one, will be the one that's going to take actions. So I think the why, and the second one I would say is resilience is a prime towards action, right? You take action, bias towards actions. The people then, in every observation, a conversation like this, an article you read, someone you meet, what are the things that you're going to do to it, right? After you listen to this for an hour, I mean, right now we're almost an hour mark, right? You listen to this much. Have you picked up something? And if you have picked up something, are you going to do anything? Are you going to get someone that you know that will benefit from this and do something, right? I think that is the key part, right? And in the end, if you think back, one time we attend a workshop, training, okay, have a great conversation with someone, do we do something, right? I think that's basically pulled through. So I think the resilience on it is consistency in doing this and continue, right? Why you do something, and then do you go and do something? And I think that's the two. And I think maybe the third one that is the resilience will keep on if you can continue to solve the problem. Maybe not this one, the third one is not as direct, but I think that is the ability to think out of the box and be able to have some progress and solutions, enable you to stay resilient, enable you to keep going. Because if you keep on stuck and can't move forward, your ability to stay resilient will drop. So ability to come out could be through leveraging on someone, could be leveraging on resources, or could be even leveraging on AI. I think now a lot of people in dealing in here, ChatGPT and Gemini and all those DeepSeek could be your best friend, right? Is that the world is transforming fast. And I think to be resilient, we need to stay relevant, right? I still remember I spoke to about at a conference where a bunch of deans of business is there. And then business school is actually thinking, how are they going to get instructor, lecturer, professors to be able to train the next batch of MBA students? Because today the market demand is very different. The professors and lecturers are not there ready in the market to be out there to train, right? And I think that's where, or even I spoke at a rural school recently, and I asked the student, this is a primary school, kids 6, 7 to 12 years old. I asked them, how many of you use generative AI, ChatGPT, Gemini to do your homework? It's 100% hands up. And then the teacher came and asked me, what is ChatGPT? So it's actually quite crazy, right? If you think on it, right?
That's
the world
wild,
has changed so fast. But if you think on it, the teacher has teach that for 20, maybe not in that school, but I've been teaching it for 20 years, 25 years, right? And they'll be teaching almost the same way, maybe slight tweak here and there. But now suddenly, whatever they teach and everything, the students are doing the assignment instead of 2 hours, it's now 20 seconds, right? And the students are outsmart because the technology. And even now, if you talk to kids, 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, many of them are super smart, really beyond what I think we were, right, back then.
No, I think like just to summarize kind of like the key concepts that I got, right? One is definitely motivation. Two is action. I think the third one that you mentioned, if I were to put it in a word, is really finding that momentum. If there's no momentum, it's hard to continue, as you mentioned. And I think an interesting concept that you also brought up is relevance, right? And I wanted to end this call on that note of relevance, right? And I think we're in a time where there's a shift towards certain things becoming obsolete, certain things being replaced by AI and whatnot and other types of technologies. There's also this whole reckoning, I guess, of the relevance of venture or kind of like startups and all these things in a time where there's a lot of things happening in the space. I wanted for you to share a little bit of kind of like some big picture thoughts on what continues to excite you personally and continues to motivate you personally as you talk to founders, as you advise them, and as you invest as well from an angel standpoint.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk this on two parts, right? The one is on the last questions on this, and the other one is on the word relevance, right? Maybe I'll go to the word relevance and I come back on this, right? That what I talk to people, I keep me going. I think the word relevance, I think in the end, the technology and things will shift. But I think if you think like go down the fundamental, are we making lives better? Are you making it easier, cheaper, better, faster? Forget everything. Forget whether it's AI, forget whether blockchain, forget whether it's IoT or whatever it is. Are we making lives better? Are we making it easier, cheaper, better, faster? Right? I think if you think on it, in the end, it nails down to this, right? Are we able to make a meaningful enhancement to people's, and when I say people, could be company, could be individual, could be whatever target audience. No one wants to be more expensive. No one wants to be slower. No one wants to be worse off. No one wants to be more difficult. When we make that. So if you think on it, net out is that, right? And in terms of for me, my motivation, I think for me is that I'm a people driven more than business, I would say. And I think for me, is seeing the spark, seeing the energy action for people to transform. As I do mentoring, advising, and all this kind of thing, right? And I still spend a lot of time to students, universities. Let's say one of the programs that I'm mentoring for the last 15 years is McKinsey Youth Leadership Academy, where McKinsey got a bunch of associate consultants to put out a program to mentor local university undergraduates. Because McKinsey in Malaysia back then, in the earlier years, most of their hire were foreign graduates, people that study overseas. But they were trying to build a pool of people that could study locally and go in there, right? Who are less exposed to the outside world. So I've been mentoring for that program for 15 years, right? And I think a lot of it is seeing the growth and transformation of the people. All of us start from somewhere. All of us start from zero. No matter how famous someone, maybe of course a few people born into straight away that, but most people start from somewhere. And if you meet someone that is, let's say, Tokopedia, William, he started when, I still remember he was talking about one time when Tokopedia was very new. He was at a career fair. He was at a career fair 2 days himself, standing there and telling people sign up for Tokopedia. And he couldn't get people to apply to Tokopedia because everyone's like, what is Tokopedia, right? I mean, those were maybe 10, 12 years ago when he just started, when the company is unknown. But he went through that, right? Carousel, Silvery, they all have been a flea market and everything trying to sell secondhand products and stuff, right? And build it through. I think many of these stories, or even when I was a uni student, there's this guy that came in and gave a talk that very few people turned up, 10 plus people. I never heard of him. I saw free food, I went in. And that person is Elon Musk, right? He started from somewhere as well. That's 20 over years ago, right? And he's unknown, right? And I think all of us have that moment. And I think it's how do we go in there? And that's why for me, if you ask me a motivation is that, let's say for example, this video of this recording, to me is, can I question, ask, inspire, to reflect, get you to reflect and everything, one or two or three or four of the audience here, or maybe hopefully more, that push you to think and do something. Take a step different. Take a step towards make life better for someone. And I think I will quote my mentor, Dr. Johan American, who is now the Secretary General of Ministry of Finance. Right. So back then when he was the CEO of Talent Corp Malaysia, he was saying that, let's say look at a beach. There were a lot of starfish dying on the beach there. We have no chance to save all the starfish. If we pick up one starfish, and that starfish, we put the starfish back into the sea. Yes, in the beach, there's still lots of starfish that's dying. But to that starfish, that particular starfish that we save, we change the starfish life. And the same thing, each of us as we grow out there, each person that we can inspire change, we might change that person, that family, and the impact that the person and that family will go on to make for others. Or sometimes just that we smile to someone or make someone happier. That person ripple effect the next person and make them in a better mood and do it and transform through. So I think it's the ripple action of one at a time. For us, founder that built, that is very successful, that built through. You start from one customer, the first customer, the second customer. If you can get each customer to love your product, love your services, you will succeed. If you can't get customer to love your things that you do no value to them, you will not succeed. And I would say that as a founder, think through. No one cares more about you than you yourself, right? And I think in the end, is the buck stop at you and how do you build through.
So yeah, everything starts with one. And on that note, yeah, I wanted to thank Chen Chow, CC. Thank you very much for coming on call with us. I feel like I have this is a really jam-packed episode, and there's a lot we can definitely share with our audience that they can take away. And if you do want to continue this conversation, continue this call, if you feel like this was not enough, do reach out to Chen Chow or CC and in LinkedIn, the link in the podcast description below. And I'm sure, as he mentioned earlier, if you're able to find these entrepreneurs in that right frame of mind and have some time to talk, they'll be more than generous to share kind of their insight. And definitely Chen Chow is one of those people. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. And yeah, anything else you wanted to add, Chen Chow, to share with the audience before you go?
Yeah, thanks, Paulo, for having this. And I think to all the audience, I think thanks for tuning in Academy on Call. And I think for those of you that haven't signed up for Insignia Ventures Academy, do go and sign up for it if you think this is relevant for you. I think you make the choice, right? I think in the end is you don't want someone to force you to join, but you choose to take that step. And of course, for those of you that are building a startups and whatnot, that you want to find a great VC firm to partner you, don't forget Insignia Ventures Partner. Right? I think wish you all the best. And I think that the focus on making a difference, one customer at a time, making lives easier, cheaper, better, faster. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I see the lights are already on in the back. It's getting pretty late. Thanks so much for going on the call again.
Yeah, thank you very much.